Welcome to the BitGeek podcast. I'm your host, Ron Avis, and sitting with me on the couch to my far left is my co-host, the Prince of Pixels,
Nick Wright.
Also returning to the show is special guest, the chairman of the Chinese knockoff,
Martin Reimer.
And today we're going to be ranking the top 10 Gamecube games. All right, here we are, guys. We're doing yet another definitive top 10 ranking. And, you know, Martin, you've agreed to join us for this ranking. You've joined us on a couple other, especially the Nintendo ones. I mean, it just feels like a natural fit to get you on with us to do a top 10 ranking.
Yeah, definitely glad to be back, guys, and appreciate being on the show. I mean, I love Nintendo games. Yeah. I mean, I was a Nintendo kid growing up, so that's my my system of choice.
Except for the arcade games, he likes Sega.
Well, I did.
Me
like
too.
Some
I mean,
Sega
I mean, as compared to Nintendo, who had they gave up making arcades after the NES and the Famicom came out.
Yeah, it was pretty much just Nintendo in the arcade. So
right.
Yeah.
So like what we'll do in this episode, like we're going to get to the rankings, but I thought we might just talk about the GameCube a little bit beforehand, including some factoid type deals. The GameCube came out in November 5th, 2001 in the US and in September in Japan. Back when they used to have staggering release dates. Like, that's not really a thing anymore, but it used to be a deal. And
I'm not sure why they ever did those kind of things.
And at least the window got shorter. Like, I remember it would be years like they would come out in Japan. Like, Super Mario Brothers 3 came out like a year and a half, 2 years before it came out in the US, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that was because of localization or something. I don't know, but...
It couldn't be just that.
There's not all that much localization for Mario 3.
not really. So it came out in 2001, and Nick and I actually waited. We went to a midnight, what do you call it, release date party kind of thing.
And I don't know how long you had planned this, but it was very spur of the moment for me. It was like, hey, Nick, you want to go to Myers and do the midnight release of GameCube? Okay. I mean, that's pretty much what it was.
You know me, Nick. Everything I do is spur of the moment. Like, I rarely plan stuff out more than a couple days in advance.
I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's something we'd never done before, and I'd never done before. And, I think people were pretty excited about the GameCube, and there'd been a lot of hype. And, their fourth system after the NES, Super NES, and 64, and now the GameCube. And it was a good price. I remember being really turned on by the price.
Yeah,
it's a good $100.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, a good $100 cheaper than the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. Well, the Xbox might have been even more. Like, I want to say the Xbox came in at that was maybe the most expensive one because there was different hard drive options.
I mean, it was definitely the higher end hardware. I think.
Yeah, it was for sure a computer basically.
Oh, basically it was. Yeah, that was ginormous. I mean,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And I liked the look of the GameCube, and I liked the colors. Like, you had the option of I think purple and black
at launch.
At launch.
Which colors did you get at launch?
Purple. No, black. I got black. Did I? I don't even know.
Shame.
Now I'm wondering myself, did I get purple or black? Because the purple seems the iconic color.
Purple is the iconic. I think I did get purple.
I think so too. I think we both got purple.
Man, I need to go home and find out, and I'll put on Facebook, it was purple or it was black.
Yeah. On the Facebook page. And if you say you got black, then I probably got black too.
Yeah.
Well, black is like a popular entertainment console.
It was either purple or RCA. I mean, that was really the options you had.
The one thing that was cool, like later on, a little down the road, when they started selling all the controllers, the different colors and stuff, they were one of the first ones, I think, to do that. Because back in the Super Nintendo days, you'd have the little adapter to play four-player games like Bomberman or whatever.
Yeah, and Turbo Tap.
And it was hard to tell whose controller was whose. You'd have to I don't know how many people would do this, but I used to put a little sticker around the cord so that like on the where it comes out of the controller, so you can see like,
Yeah.
okay, this one's the blue one,
Yeah.
and then you follow it down the way, and there's the blue one, you know, and so you know who like what player was what.
I didn't do that, but that's a super smart idea.
Yeah.
But so like when the GameCube came out, I made sure to always get like a different color controller for when I had like 4 controllers for those, you know, Mario Golf or whatever.
Well, and to be
4-player
honest,
games.
that really started at the N64 years too.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of were
Yeah.
the first
Yeah.
ones to have all the different colors.
Yeah, you're right. It kind of started there.
Because Dreamcast, it
I
was
was
all
just-
the same color.
I was thinking about the GameCube because I remember like that spice orange one being like very
Yeah.
sought after.
Spice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty sought after.
Spice.
Well, I had written down here that we got 4, I think, different colors. Like we got Spice, Platinum.
I had the platinum one. That's
Did
when
you
I
have the
got
platinum
mine,
one? Yeah. Indigo, which was purple, and what do they call the black? I don't think they just called it black. They might have just called it black.
I don't know.
But in
Not sure.
Japan, they had 11 different color options in the end.
Oh yeah,
11. That's insane.
I didn't know that.
Just an insane amount of customization they had as far as choices go. But yeah, it was very appealing. I remember, you know, seeing it in the E3s and the shows, and it's just this little cube box that had really impressive graphics.
And it had like a little handle on the back, like
Yeah,
you were meant
what-
to
I mean,
like
what
take
was
it
the
to like
deal with
LAN
that?
parties or something.
That was the idea, but I don't know
like
anybody.
you're
that-
gonna like walk around carrying it like a little suitcase.
Well, they say in Japan where like space is more to premium, you know, people would have their consoles like out on the floor with them, and you know they didn't have so much space.
and you know you'd put it up or whatever when you're done.
Yeah. So, you know, it makes sense more sense in Japan to have the little handle,
Yeah.
I guess. But for us, you know, in America where we just have bigger houses and more space.
I mean, we had an Xbox. I mean, just literally like a VCR. You just
yeah, the
put
Xbox
down.
controller alone took up 2 or 3 GameCubes.
That's bigger than the GameCube,
Its
right?
footprint was huge.
I like the little handle. I never used it, but I liked it.
I liked the idea of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, LAN gaming was more of a PC at that time, still kind of, it was very novel to have it on a game system.
Yeah.
And it became more popular with Xbox.
Were there any games that you could like network
I was just
together?
wondering. I don't think, aside from maybe that
There
Fantasy
were
Star,
there were a handful of games that took advantage of it. Less than 10.
Yeah.
Less than 10. And I don't think all of those were released in the US. But it did have an Ethernet adapter, you know, from the LAN.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a major deal. Like I was doing some research on the GameCube and I totally forgot it had an Ethernet like built into it. PlayStation 2 didn't have one built into it. You had to get it later and install it as a peripheral, basically.
Well, it wasn't built in, was it?
Was
you,
it not
you had to
built
get an
in?
adapter.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah,
thinking maybe it was
And
built
it like
in.
screwed into the bottom of it.
Right.
Okay. So the Xbox was the only one that just had it natively, I guess.
Yeah.
And the
Again.
Dreamcast had a dial-up modem.
A dial-up modem one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And with Dreamcast, you could pop out the dial-up and pop in the broadband
Yeah.
that you had to buy separate.
Gotcha.
Right.
So it was modular in that way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool. But yeah, the handle was cute. The look of it was very cute. Let's talk about the controller for a second.
Very comfortable.
Yeah, really
I
comfortable.
really like the controller.
It looked very toy-like. Like if you just saw the controller and be like, I don't know about that. But when you start to use it, it feels pretty comfortable.
It's a controller that many people to this day declare as the best console gaming controller ever.
The
I don't know if I agree with that, but a lot of people feel that way.
the C-stick was interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you could kind of use it like another analog or as just buttons if you just like up, down, left, and right with it.
And it had that big green A button. You just,
Yeah.
just rested on your thumb perfectly.
And like the funny shaped other.
Yeah, like kidney-shaped button around the edge.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to make of that. I mean, it
It,
felt comfortable, like, for intro.
It really, really fit certain games and then was like very, very odd for other games.
Exactly. They Nintendo seemed to always come up with their hardware and design their own games to fit that their controller and the hardware. They've always done that.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas if you're a third-party developer, you're trying to make your game port easily to every system. GameCube is sort of the outlier, you know.
Oh, and it had like those analog triggers that.
Oh yeah.
They kind of like went straight in instead of kind of like at an angle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they clicked like when you went all the way in, like it would go in and kind of click.
Yeah, the analog buttons on the shoulders is one of the sticking points for emulation for the Switch. It has always been, how are we gonna make the games precise when the shoulder buttons are different?
Yeah.
Mechanically, they're different.
Right.
And I think Rocket League was the first kind of trial that they had to see how it would, because the PlayStation and the Xbox has more of the analog like that too. Mm-hmm. And it seems to play okay. I don't think it's a huge deal, but I remember when the Switch was coming out, and there were all those articles early on like, oh, it's going to have GameCube games in the virtual console.
Yeah.
Like, what about the controllers, the analog? It's not the same. So
I would imagine very few games would really utilize it to the point that it would be a big deal.
A racing game is about the only type of game that I can think of that would suffer, but only a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if there were any games that like touted that feature, like the
really.
sensitivity of the controller.
That you had to like, you know, like very gently like squeeze in, like maybe halfway or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said before, I just don't think it'd be that huge of a deal for most games.
Yeah. So it came out in 2001, and it was Project Dolphin, as you know. We got to mention whatever its code name was prior to that, which is interesting because there's a really phenomenal emulator out now called Dolphin.
Yeah,
paying tribute to that.
Yeah.
And I'll say up front, I'm gonna lean on some of you guys a bit, you know, as far as the conversation goes in some of these games, because I've almost kind of been dreading this list a bit. Because GameCube is, without a doubt, that era of gaming period was when I was out of it the most. And I bought a GameCube because I wanted to get back into gaming. And I thought, well, maybe this will be the system to do it. And I bought some games, and I played those games for a bit. But I never completed a single game. I've never beaten a GameCube game, which, you know, you guys think is hilarious. You know, like, what's your favorite game? Have you beaten it? No. I haven't beaten any of these games. But I've played some of them for several hours.
Oh, several hours.
Several hours. But, you know, it was never the system that I played the most. NES, Super NES, N64, played them tons. Wii U even, I played tons. Wii, you know, I played certain games tons. Not the library, it's not super extensive, but then on up to Switch, which I play a ton again. So I've gone from tons and tons of gaming to very little, almost completely non-existent. As I'd mentioned to you, Nick, before, I never even owned a Game Boy Advance, which is one of the most popular handhelds ever.
Yeah,
may be the most popular handheld.
And it came in like so many flavors throughout the years.
And I missed out on all of those flavors, like the little clamshells that looked like with the NES fittings.
And that was actually one of my favorite things about the GameCube was it could support the Game Boy Advance. You know,
there were games that where it was meant to link up and give you sort of that second screen experience that Nintendo's been chasing for all these years, and got there, and now they're kind of abandoning it, which we were just talking off air. Do you think there's going to be a 3DS successor? And I think there will be, especially since the new president's come out and said recently that there will be. Like, matter of factly, there will be. So it isn't just the Switch and only the Switch. They're not giving up their handheld division just yet, which, you know, I guess kudos to them. They always sell a ton, but part of me just wishes they'd focus on the Switch only.
Yeah.
I really like playing everything on the Switch because, damn it, it's a handheld too, you know?
Right.
It's a very cool handheld. I want all the games on Switch. But anyway, that's not
more
neither
powerful
here nor
Switch, please.
Yeah. At this past E3, no 3DS announcements, and you think finally we're over the hump. And then the president comes out and says recently, oh, it's not. There will be another handheld.
Yeah.
So we could always speculate later what that actually means.
More announcements to come.
More announcements to come. Let's see. What else can we say about the GameCube? Oh gosh, I got to talk about this. So they came, the little DVDs.
Oh, yeah.
Those
were so cool.
Yeah, they were neat, but they were annoying for people like Nick and I who were, you know, like chest deep into hacking at that, you know, like modifying and...
Well, it didn't bother me that I wasn't able to bootleg them because they were small.
Well, it's not because they
tiny. I can't bootleg them.
That's not what I mean. It was hard. I'm just saying it was more difficult to bootleg because those small DVDs, the writables, you could buy them, but they were like half as much as what a game would cost.
I like the small size.
I like them too.
Speak for yourself.
I'm not saying anything bad about this. But, okay, all right. But here's the other setback to that is you had less than half of what a DVD's, like the capacity of the game.
That was unfortunate.
Yeah, so the side effect to keeping people like me from modifying their games was half the space. And they always had to fight that. Now, some games you would never know it. That we'll have on our list that just look as good or better.
This should have been on one disc, obviously, but they had to put it across.
Yeah, so the one game's on 2.
So yeah, it was 1.6 gigabytes of space versus the 4.7 gigabytes that your PlayStation 2 and Xbox could fit. And the other unfortunate side effect or drawback to them fighting that piracy was no DVD player, and that had to have hurt them severely.
Hey, what was that that model that had a DVD player in it? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, there was a Panasonic that was released in Japan.
Was it the Q? Panasonic
it was
Q?
called the Q. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say Q sounds about right.
Yeah, and you could watch movies on that one.
Yeah.
And it looked really cool too. Like it was very of the time as far as what you'd see like home entertainment, like audio equipment. It looks really neat.
Yeah.
Didn't even look like a GameCube to me, really. There were tons of neat peripherals for the GameCube. We'd mentioned the linking.
The Game Boy player.
The Game Boy Advance player.
There's Game Boy Advance player. There was also like neat little things like the GameCube could technically be a portable. Do you guys remember that?
Where you could put the screen on top?
Yeah, you could buy an LCD screen, put it on top, and buy a battery to run the GameCube. So it could be...
I don't remember that. I remember something like that for the PS1, like the remodeled PlayStation 1, you know? I remember that little screen.
Well, Nintendo didn't release the screen for the GameCube.
Yeah, it was
like
a third party thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think the one for PS1 was third party, wasn't it?
Probably.
I don't know. I think it might have actually been official.
It fit like right on it. It looked,
come to think of it, that would be something like Sony would.
It was official. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was official.
But yeah, that little thing that came out for Nintendo GameCube was third party. So that was cool. Let's talk about how many units it sold. It sold 22 million, which I think is the lowest of all of their systems.
Yeah.
Of course, they bounced back huge with the Wii, but it was down to 22 million. And coming off of it, there was always that dip. You know, there was the NES that was up there pretty big. SNES was also big.
Well, it was their first time to go to disc instead of cartridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really drug their feet on that. And it was the first Nintendo console that didn't have a Mario game ready at launch.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So there's all these like little weird things going against the GameCube. Like price was going for it. I think it beat PlayStation 2 and Xbox Xbox might have been out a week beforehand, but it did beat PlayStation 2, I think. And then PlayStation 2 went to eat its lunch, from there. But it came out basically first. I remember many people being very skeptical of Xbox, myself included.
Oh yeah, I didn't even get one. Like ever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Really?
Yeah, I never did buy an Xbox.
No, Nick, you had a controller, but not an Xbox.
What the heck is an Xbox? Microsoft?
I know. It seems so weird to think about now.
It's like so natural now, but back then it was like, no.
Get the hell out of here. Computer people, what's next? A Mac game console? Get out of here.
Wait. Yeah, there was one.
Was there?
Google it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, now because you hear announcements that Google really wants really bad to get into the console market.
Yeah.
And they have the money to do it. I mean, that's the only reason Microsoft is still around now is because they put so much money behind it.
Yeah.
Bill Gates wanted that to succeed so bad.
He wanted to control the living room, right?
Yeah, he wanted to be the big swinging, personality.
Everybody wants a printer next to their TV.
But back to the GameCube. So yeah, it didn't sell great. Let's see. Anything else? It was the first to have a true wireless controller.
Yeah, the Wavebird was
Wavebird.
great.
The Wavebird was very revolutionary. There have, of course, been other wireless kind of line of sight controllers, even going back to the NES. And I even had one of those.
Well, that was the great thing about Wavebird is it was not line of sight.
Exactly.
It was radio signal.
Yeah, and they advertised it that way too. They were really
at that time, like, you know, because there were like little wireless controllers like on NES, and like all the little systems would try to do it, but they were always line of sight, and they were always awful.
Yeah.
But Wavebird was great.
Wavebird was perfect. I mean, it didn't, like you said, it didn't have to be line of sight. There could be something in between you and the little adapter that plugged into the front, and it would still work, which was completely novel at the time. Now it's just ubiquitous. Every console's got the wireless, but Wavebird was very innovative for the time. Let's see, what else do we have to say here? I guess that's really all the like little tidbits and facts that I have about GameCube. You know, just wanted to throw that out there in the beginning that like I said, I don't have some of these games on the list. Let's see, only one of them, no, two of them I've never even played. A couple of them I've only played a few times, but I have
made
played
the top 10.
Yeah, that made the top 10. There's a couple I never played.
He played a few hours.
A few that I played a few hours. Yeah. And but there are.
Yeah, I know what two of them are.
Yeah, and there are definitely a few on here that I spent, for sure, almost beat. Basically got to the end, but just gave up on it. So just to let you guys know, and one game in particular nearly didn't even make our top 10. That would have people would have shut us off forever if it didn't make the 10. And it's because of me too. Like, it would have been higher probably, but I just never really played it. So naturally it's not going to be in my top 10, but we'll get to that when we get there.
Right.
It's because of Martin too.
No, that's true.
Both
I
of
never
you.
got into that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Okay.
But
Oh man.
I was really sweating. I was before I knew it was making the top 10. I was like, oh god, we're gonna have to do like a whole episode to apologize just to not have it in there. But anyways, getting that out of the way, our usual format. Nick has, he has a little formula that he does. Nick, can you explain how that works? How we do our top 10?
Basically, I made an Excel formula that, we each do about 15 games, so that way,
So we need 15 to prevent.
Yeah, we needed some overlap.
Yeah, we needed some overlap to prevent a bunch of ties.
And so it ended up, so we just because we just randomly picked games, and so ended up that we actually got about 21 or 22, I think, in total that we picked.
Yeah,
but in the formula, just it gives points for wherever it's ranked on our list, because we put like our personal rankings.
Yep. I'm going to have each of our top 10 in the description down below. But I think what I like to do for us is, since inevitably there's going to be a game in each of our top 10 that doesn't make the list, I think it'd be nice for each of us to kind of bring up a game as our honorable mention, and that way, if there's a game on your list that you liked, it didn't make the list, just because Martin didn't like it,
right? Martin,
right?
Well, so many of these like lists, like Nick and I, not always, but they're pretty close. We line up, but yeah, I want us to have kind of a spotlight feature opportunity if there's a game you really enjoy, but it just didn't make the top 10.
But there's bonus points given.
Yeah.
That the formula will see, like, if we have each voted on a certain game, like if it's on 2 of the list, then so many bonus points. If it's on all 3 of the list, more bonus points. And
because it should carry more weight.
Yeah, it should carry more weight because more of us chose this game. Because I feel like if only one of us had a game, like say Martin, because we always pick on Martin.
Thanks, guys.
We're so nice to our guests.
Now I know why you invite me on the show. Right?
Yeah, say Martin, ranked a game number 1.
Yeah.
But it's a game that neither you or I had on our list at all.
Right.
Then and it would put it like really high on the list because it got really high marks for being scored number 1.
Yeah.
That's just to try to even it out.
Yeah.
So
I want to give you a lot of credit because
in there, right?
Yeah.
the first time we attempted to do this, we did have a lot of weird ties because we were just simply, if you were 1, you got 10 points. If you were 2, you got 9 points, and so on and so forth. Just like you said.
Yeah.
If
and
you
now
were really high,
we've learned to break those ties because we still get ties every now and then.
Yeah.
but we kind of look, okay, well, these two games that tied, okay, well, Ron ranked this game above that game. Martin also ranked this game above that game, but Nick ranked vice versa, the other way around.
It's like a majority rules kind of thing.
Yeah, so the majority rules. So
Right.
since two ranked it higher, then that one wins.
Yep. I give you a lot of credit for coming up with this system because it works really good. So, and we have a true top 10. And I don't think we're not cheating, you know, it really is. If you take all these bonus points and factors into consideration, you got a true top 10, I think. So I stand by this top 10.
We keep refining it, but I'm pretty happy with it now.
I like where it's at. Well, Martin, I'm sorry we pick on you, so I'm going to let you go ahead and go first with your honorable mention. Guest, you should get to bring up the game. Is there a game that you had in your top 10 that didn't make the official 10 that you would like to bring up now?
Gosh, put me on the spot. I need to look.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I need to look down at my games that didn't make it now.
Quick, get the list up.
I'll talk about mine while you guys look, since I know which one I'm going to go with.
Quit putting people on the spot.
I'm sorry. This isn't our first rodeo, guys. We've done this before.
All right, so there's your games.
I'm going to say for my honorable mention, I'm going to mention a game that I actually never played when it originally was out on the GameCube. But on the Dolphin emulator is one of the ROMs that I picked up and played it a bunch, and that's Mario Strikers, the soccer sports title, which is kind of weird because soccer is not a big thing for me. And there are other sports that I'm pretty sure they did have GameCube titles for. I'm certain they had a baseball game, and I think there was even a basketball game.
Yeah.
But the soccer game, it's that arcadey style. It's the sprites are really big and pretty.
I've never played it.
It's really fun.
I've played Mega Man Soccer on Super Nintendo.
Oh God, I heard that's awful.
It's terrible.
I've heard it's terrible.
Yeah,
Did you just buy it because you just love it?
No, I didn't.
So
I rented it. I didn't buy it.
Thank God. Yeah, I've heard that's just a piece of garbage. And it would have been like $80 too back then. You remember N64 games were so expensive?
Really? 80?
Huh?
No.
They were like $70 for sure. They were way more expensive than PlayStation.
I might say $69.99. I could probably buy that, but
maybe when it first came out, but I thought the prices came down.
There were $80 N64.
It was Nintendo 64, but Mega Man Soccer was Super Nintendo.
Oh, was it? I was thinking it was N64. Okay, I'm sorry. Never mind.
So
For some reason in my head, I was thinking N64. Okay.
But yeah,
they were like $59.99 back on the Super Nintendo.
Nintendo 64, I think, was $69.99.
Yeah,
if not $59.99. I forget.
I remember the NES games were around $49.99. Of course, this doesn't factor in inflation. If you factor in inflation, it's probably around $60.
I think I'm almost positive in my box. You know how like upstairs I've got like all the games like in the box still.
The museum,
all the console games.
Call it what it is.
I'm almost positive I've still got the receipt from. I think it might have still been Babbage's at the time for the Nintendo 64.
Really?
Wow.
I think it's still in that box.
That's such a hoarder thing to do, but it's cool.
And so it's got, because I saw it when I was kind of going through that stuff about a year ago. I remember seeing it again, and it had because I bought Mario at the same time, so it was the system.
Who didn't, right?
And Mario 64.
I got Pilot Wings and that was it. You had Pilot Wings and Mario 64.
Yeah, it was the two games.
That's cool, man, because there are certain things that I just remember so well because it was just such a large part of your life. Babbage's receipts is definitely something I'd like to have now, and I would love to have something with that old Toys R Us orange sticker for the price.
Yeah,
that is Toys R Us, and I don't think I have anything still with that orange sticker anymore.
Yeah,
but I love that. I would just love to buy a roll of those blank orange stickers. Just label stuff around the house with it. Especially now that Toys R Us.
Those little gun things.
Yeah. You can't have that bag of chips. That's 99 cents, son. But yeah, Mario Strikers, like I said, I didn't. It was emulated perfectly on Dolphin, and Logan and I would play it, and he plays soccer, so he's instantly kind of drawn to it because of that. But I mean, soccer is an easy enough game to know. You just kick the ball into the other team's goal, and it's an arcadey kind of game, so the strategies really are not anything you'd have to worry about. Like, I know there's strategies that go along with soccer, but in a Mario sports game, not so much.
Yeah.
But it was just it played really, really well, and it was a lot of fun. And it was in my top 10 based on all the time I put in on the emulator. So, anyways, Martin, do you remember or do you know now what your honorable mention would be?
Yeah, I'd probably have to say a Capcom game, Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful Joe.
So, side kind of beat 'em up. It was, I just
Very
think we
cool
remember.
style.
Yeah, it had a very different style at the time, and then
Was it cell shading?
it was kind of like this 3D cell shaded look to
I guess
it.
you could call it that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I know what to call it.
yeah, and I think they
Deep
made
borders,
2
you know,
and
like
3, but yeah,
It was a very cartoony look, like comic book kind of style look.
right, yeah,
It was made by Capcom, though, right?
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if it had any of the original Mega Man creators. It had like because it had the characters were cartoony. I feel like they almost look like Astro Boy-ish.
They
Kinda
had
like
big
Mega Man
heads.
does.
Mega Man-ish, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Definitely.
like big head, little body kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like was it a beat 'em up game?
Yeah, it was a beat 'em up game.
was a beat 'em up
Yeah,
game.
it was pretty challenging for what I remember, but it was just kind of stuck out in my memory as just like one of those games where it was pretty unique. I think it was exclusive for GameCube
It
first,
was,
and
yeah.
then it came to PlayStation.
And there was a sequel,
Two.
Beautiful Joe 2.
There was a
out
sequel, and I think there might have been a third.
I don't remember the third.
Because I know there was I thought there was a cartoon series based
Really?
off of it.
Oh,
too.
that wouldn't surprise
There
me.
might,
yeah.
I think
In
there might have
Japan
been.
or here?
Here,
Oh.
yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, it was just an oddball game, and just kind of.
Was that a game you owned, or was it just something
I
you
owned
like
it.
kind of?
Yeah, I owned it. Yeah.
I just didn't know if it was like a game.
Yeah, I made the mistake to own it. Yeah.
No, I mean a lot of people.
It was
like
more
that
like a
game.
cult classic, I think.
A very good description.
yeah.
Of it was a cult classic. Many
Yeah.
people enjoyed, but unfortunately, I guess not enough people bought it.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed Capcom, and Nintendo was just the dream team back in the day
Yeah.
on NES, like 8-bit, 16-bit, not so much the N64, I guess. They really, other than Rare, they didn't have a lot going for them
Yeah.
third party.
I honestly don't really have a lot more to say about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have to go back and replay it again.
Well, it's an
but-
honorable mention.
Yeah, exactly.
Nick, what would your honorable mention be?
I want 2.
I'll allow it. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, because I was going to say Pac-Man Versus at first, which,
Well, let's do Pac-Man versus then. Let's start with that.
well, I did.
Okay.
Well, I was actually.
Well, I thought maybe you were going to do your other second honorable mention to start out.
Yeah, and so Pac-Man Versus was kind of interesting. It came with Pac-Man World 2. Like, it was like, in fact, I've got it up there somewhere.
It's up there on the for
but-
you video viewers only.
But yeah, and I didn't buy it for Pac-Man World 2 at all. I didn't
Yeah.
really care so much about that, but I
Right.
had to have Pac-Man Versus. I mean, that was a lot of fun, and it utilized like what Martin was talking about, how you could combine the Game Boy Advance. So you'd have a little adapter, so you'd plug it into the GameCube, and you could have whichever player was Pac-Man would look at the Game Boy Advance, and he or she could see like the maze and control Pac-Man, and then everybody else is on the TV screen controlling the ghosts trying to chase Pac-Man, but they would only see a very limited view,
yeah.
and it would just
sort of black out. And then if you got, was it fruit in the middle or some kind of power up in the middle, it would expand.
If the ghost got the fruit,
Yeah.
then it would expand a little bit more, zoom out a little more, so you could see more of the
Right.
maze and
like
have
15-20% more.
have a better chance of seeing Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Pac-Man would have kind of like a little trail around him, so you'd see like that
That's
little
right.
trail every
Yeah,
now and then.
yeah.
Like, oh, there he is. He's around here somewhere. He's
Yep.
close.
Oh yeah, and that is Nintendo did couch co-op so damn good.
Yeah.
It was a
That
great
awesome.
party game.
Very
I
unique.
remember playing that at your house, and people will probably recognize it now, of course, because it was released on Switch in their Namco Museum collection.
Yeah, and I was so happy when they finally re-released that game.
Yeah,
'Cause on the GameCube, it was the only way you ever had it up until now.
If that Namco Museum sold 1 million copies, it's on the backs of that release
Yeah.
for sure. I had no interest in buying it. Then the news came late that they were adding it, and then suddenly everybody was excited for it.
Yeah.
I bought it. You bought it. Martin, did you buy it?
No, I didn't buy it on
In
Switch.
fact, I just saw that they're releasing a new version of that, and I think they're calling it like Pac-Man Arcade. And it's everything that was in that game, but they're also adding in like Champions Edition 2.
Oh, nice.
So they're selling that same game, but with just one other game
They need to
added.
come out with that Battle Royale Pac-Man game. You know what I'm talking about? It was like a 4-player Pac-Man that was in the arcades.
What was that all about?
It had like.
Was this during the 80s or?
No. This is during like the 2000s somethings. I mean, this is just not that all many years ago. It's just one of those arcade games that would come out like on a big kind of tabletop kind of screen sort of thing. Well, I say tabletop, but I think it was upright.
It's the kind of thing you'd see in a Dave & Buster's now, probably.
I think I say tabletop because they had it like on iOS that you could put it like on an iPad or something and lay it on a table, and then other people could like control with their phone.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
But anyway, I mean, it was just like Pac-Man, but there were 4 players that were all 4 Pac-Man, like each like a different color Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
I feel like you could like you would bounce into each other.
So were there still ghosts?
They're still ghosts.
They're still ghosts.
Yeah.
So the Pac-Mans would bump into each other?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if when you ate a power pellet,
Did you eat a Pac-Man?
That's what I'm trying to decide. I don't remember.
Pac-Man can't eat Pac-Man.
Yeah, I don't know.
That does not exist. Does not compute.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
But it was and the reason I don't really remember is because I never got a chance to play it a whole lot.
Yeah.
But which is why I wish they'd re-release it on something else.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was developed by somebody else and that's what's holding it up, because that happens sometimes.
Maybe.
Sometimes they'll develop by a company that's no longer around anymore, and then it was distributed by Namco or Midway or whatever. That's usually
they don't have the source code.
They don't have the source code, or they just don't have the rights to release it.
Right.
But I really do like that picnic.
Hungry?
Yeah, I guess. I really do like that pick. That's a good one. I'm glad you mentioned it, because that was kind of a weirdly that was a big deal, and it even came with it was like Nintendo's biggest E3 announcement that year. And you said that you think you were at.
I think I was at that one. Yeah, I think that was 03.
03? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
but it's almost kind of it's made fun of in a way.
There was one on a tabletop.
Oh, so it did come with a tabletop.
Yeah, so you well.
No. Banner ads.
I saw it for like a second. I'll throw up an image for you YouTubers, and Nick now is now obligated to update the Facebook page. As he brought this up,
I think
it looks cool.
I think they have that in Cart Country. I could have sworn I've seen something like that
in the past or now.
No, recently.
Okay.
I've
local go.
Oh, maybe that's what I saw. Battle
seen
Royale,
that one somewhere.
Yeah, I've never seen that one either.
So there's like a yellow, purple, blue, and a red Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm. No, that looks fun. I would definitely be into that.
Yeah, there's like the advertisement for it.
I sure have gotten a lot of mileage out of that little guy.
Who sees arcade advertisement? I mean, what's the
point of it? That's a good question.
Especially nowadays. Like, what magazine,
advertisements?
what literature do you find arcade flyers?
Yeah.
I mean,
Arcade Owners Quarterly.
Oh, there, see? Player that eat a power pellet can eat ghosts and non-powered up players. So, yeah, you could eat the other Pac-Man.
Sacrilegious.
That's horrible.
Cannibals.
So, anyway. Yeah.
Bandai Namco, what do you expect?
Bandai. Hey, I heard they're making the new Smash Brothers game. Okay.
And aren't they supposed to be making the new Metroid Prime?
That's a rumor.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the case. I don't even know if we know, because we know it's not retro. And it's weird, too, because that retro rumor about the Star Fox thing never came to be.
I know, that's weird.
What the hell is retro doing? Maybe they're making Metroid
They
Prime.
haven't made all their announcements yet.
That's true. The Nintendo podcast that we sometimes become. There was news recently that the stock just keeps dropping. And part of the reason for the recent drop is because of lackluster announcements to keep people excited at E3. And to me, I just say, well, it got so sky high, it's only natural it's going to come down and level out to a natural, more expected level. It's still really good, but it got so higher than it's been in years. And so people are getting restless. They're like, where's that now? Like, Smash isn't doing it for you? That's like a new game. And, we need more. And they didn't really wow anybody with any big new announcements at E3. But Nintendo likes to do their Nintendo Directs. It's kind of what makes them special a little bit. They save the Nintendo Directs, and they just throughout the year have little big little announcements here and there.
Right.
So, more power to them. And the investors will be happy again, and then the stock will blow up, and we'll start seeing Forbes articles again about how it's higher than it's been in 25 years. Okay, Nick, so that's your one honorable mention. What would your other honorable mention be?
Well, I really wanted to say the Resident Evil remake. Because it just...
Speaking of big news, Resident Evil 2 remake got announced.
Like if you remember back on the PlayStation episode when I first played the original Resident Evil, and I was like, "This was the best game ever."
Oh, you loved it, man! You were just spreading the gospel.
Well, and that was like the feeling again when they made the remake. It was like so well done.
It was a huge deal.
It was a very impressive remake.
Yeah.
So I really liked it, and it was exclusive to the GameCube for a while.
Yeah, because since then it's on Xbox One.
Yeah,
it's been released on just about everything.
It's been all
Yeah.
over the place now, but at the time it was only on that. It was just so cool.
Yeah, I remember it's like, whoa, Capcom announcement, like exclusive Resident Evil. I'm like, dude, GameCube is like
and
coming back.
And
then PlayStation 2 sold 150 million units.
Yeah, and at the time I was still used to those tank controls.
Yeah.
So I played through the whole game and beat it, the remake. Because
that's right, because I think that you even mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because so you still could beat it.
When I bought it like on Xbox One or PlayStation 4, whichever it was.
Yeah, recently.
It was like,
how committed am I to this purchase?
Yeah,
which would have probably been $10, $15.
I've lost those tank controls now.
Yeah.
I strive for something more.
Well, they got Resident Evil Nemesis on GameCube also.
0.
Nemesis, I thought
Nemesis was the third one.
It might be, but I don't think it was like a remake like this though.
Yeah, it was just a port. Yeah.
But the 0 was redone like this.
Yeah. So is GameCube the only system where you can play from 0 to 5? I guess. Like any of those classic.
What
games?
was 0, guys? I don't remember.
It didn't
0.
have 5.
Oh, that's right. No, I was thinking 4. I was thinking 4. Yeah.
Which 4 was exclusive.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get
for
there.
a while.
We'll get there. We're going to talk about that. Well, what was 0, guys? I don't remember that. Was that a prequel?
The one before one, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's kind of like Street Fighter Alpha kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
And it's still Capcom.
Who
So
was
they like
the protagonist in that, dude?
Rebecca Chambers, and who she was in the first game,
right?
A very small part, but she was there, and some
the first
ex-con or something.
The first game you could play as two characters.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Couldn't you play as two characters in the first game, and it was
simultaneous?
Yeah. Well, no, he's talking about in the first game though.
In the first game, I want to say it was
you
like
can choose between Chris
and Jill
Redfield or Jill,
right.
and I always played Jill.
And you would get some different parts of the story if you did one or the other, right? Not a lot.
They did play slightly different.
It was very small, right?
Actually, I think Jill was supposed to be easier too.
She had the lockpick.
Oh, is that what it was?
And since I didn't really ever play with Chris, I couldn't really say. But there were slight differences.
Yeah, I remember reading that, and so you confirmed that. Cool. So yeah, the Resident Evil remake, one of the benchmark greatest remakes out there. I mean, now remakes are a dime a dozen,
right?
And I'm always kind of excited when I see one. You know, recently they had the Ratchet and Clank, and now they got the Spyro and the Crash Bandicoot. And you think of a game that was popular 10, 15 years ago, you can count on a remake of some kind. Shadow of the Colossus, great example.
How many times that have been redone now?
A couple, but people love that game.
Yeah. And I just bought, well, not just bought it, whenever it came out, I bought it again, like for the third time.
Right, yeah.
When, how like PlayStation's always doing those flash sales, I'll probably grab it eventually. But I still want to play God of War, man.
Oh, yeah.
On PS4?
The new one.
Yeah, well, I keep waiting for that to get down to like 30, and I'm going to like snatch it up. Looks so good. Okay. So those are our honorable mentions. Those are some pretty good games. So okay. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty. This is our top 10. And Martin, I will go ahead and start with you on this one. You can start with your number. Well, it's all of our number 10. Well, or should we let Nick just do the countdown?
Yeah,
let Nick do the countdown.
Do that.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do it that way.
I was going to mention something.
Okay, go ahead.
This had come about whenever we talked about Zelda Breath of the Wild was coming out. Wii U was kind of on the decline, and they had done the same thing that they did to Breath of the Wild, where you know, it came out on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Actually, after it came out on the Switch, right?
Twilight
Princess. Yeah. Kind of got the GameCube got the raw end of the deal on that.
Shaft.
It got the shaft. They delayed it and, you know, held on to it for the Wii. So I thought it was, you know, honorable to kind of mention that you know, it would have came out on the GameCube.
It was truly designed for GameCube.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, the Wii's coming out. We gotta make it for the Wii now."
Yeah, they pulled the same thing with the Wii U and the Switch, like you say. Right. And if the GameCube had lasted longer, but it was kind of a failure. You know, they had to move on to the Wii, and so if GameCube had been out for a couple more years, it probably would have been on our list. I probably would have given it more attention, I guess.
And that game is interesting too because it's flipped. It's like it's a mirror image of what the Wii version is. Because I guess Link is left-handed.
He's left-handed, yeah.
Link is left-handed. But for the Wii, they made him right-handed because
most people are right-handed.
They determined most people are right-handed, and they wouldn't be able to relate with him if they're swinging the. I'm using my left hand because I'm left-handed.
Right.
They're swinging, you know, the
Except
remote.
for you would have loved it.
Yeah.
You were angry. Like, oh, that would have been great.
So that's kind of interesting. Like if you're used to playing the Wii version and you start playing the GameCube and you think you know where you're going to be turned around because it's all flipped around.
That's interesting. I never heard that. It's a good factoid from Nick.
Yeah, it's a mirror image.
Yep.
I guess I should also mention this. And I don't think this is cheating too much, but I gotta throw a little praise to that game, Eternal Darkness, just for its concept alone.
Right.
I never played it, but I love the idea of that. It was a survival horror game that really messed with its players at a time when that was still pretty unique. I mean, it's not something that happens a lot even today, but you know, PlayStation, they had it going on with Psycho Mantis. What was his name?
Psycho Mantis.
Psycho Mantis, yeah. From the Metal Gear Solid game,
where
they kind of like take advantage of your memory card and just pull little tricks. But I remember, I'm trying to remember some of the tricks they did. Like I think there were times it flipped the screen upside down, maybe, and I think it made it seem like your power got turned off, or there was a corrupt file, like a save file. He did all kinds of messed up stuff to players. I never played it. I don't think either of you ever played it too, but I feel like it deserves some kind of mention. Just
I played it, but I don't remember that.
Did you?
I remember like some of those things.
Oh man, you got to Google like some of the crazy stuff they did to mess with players' heads.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, number 10, Nick.
All right, number 10.
Get us started.
The Legend of Zelda: Four Sword Adventures.
You're doing your like game show announcer, dusting that off again. So The Legend of Zelda: Four Swords. This is one of the 2 games that I didn't play. So I need you guys to talk about this game a little bit for me.
I'm trying to remember if you and I think played this one.
It took advantage of the Game Boy Advance, right?
Did we play this or did we play the Game Boy one?
I don't remember.
I
know we played Versus though.
This one, while obviously it's meant to be played with 4 players, you could actually play by yourself. Because you could do like different button combinations that would just like bring all the 4 links into like certain positions, like either like a little diamond position.
It was like an auto
cross.
And this was a top-down Link game, a Zelda game too.
Yeah, very much like A Link to the Past.
I probably would have liked it. I don't know why I never played it.
You would have, I think.
It was really cool. I mean, rarely could you get people together, but when you got them together and they had their Game Boy Advance SPs or Game Boy Advance, and you know, it had really neat features like if one Link went in a cave somewhere, then you had your own personal screen where you could dig around and do things. And
what was it like? All 4 of you are on. You're in the same.
You're all on
game?
the same screen at once.
At all times, you're on the same screen.
Unless you go off into like a cave or something. Okay. I don't think it was that.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to remember. So you're talking about you could play with like your Game Boy?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around how this game worked, because when you say 4 players, my brain, and the way they do it nowadays is they would just have it, you're sharing the world, but you're not tethered together. But
you're kind of, well, if you're playing 4 humans, you're not tethered together.
Okay.
You can scatter around.
That sounds awesome.
But you are kind of like stuck within like that map.
Right.
Now, whether he might be right, I forget if you had a Game Boy.
Well, because in theory, you could complete the game so much faster. If
maybe you could kind of go on your own. I forget.
But it was very controlled. Like you you could go into like a cave and there was maybe, I don't know, like a pot. You could throw it and then you come back out.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot.
But I mean,
So there was a mechanic that kept you.
there were things you had to
It was a
do
little
with
gimmicky,
teamwork.
I think. But
Yeah, I mean it's kind of gimmicky, but and there were things where you had to hit like 4
Nintendo
switches.
gimmicky?
At
What?
You had to hit like 4 switches at once or something, you know. So
Yeah.
you know, one
So
guy
it's
on this
necessary
switch.
that you all be there because you
Yeah.
can't advance without
or
players.
picking up like big boulders or something. Seems like you had stuff like that,
like
where,
a team lift.
Yeah, everybody like grab a hold of this thing at once and throw it.
Toss a car like in The Simpsons arcade.
Yeah, it was fun though. I we should play
Yeah.
through it again. I think you
Yeah.
and I did play it.
Is
Yeah.
this something that came out on Virtual Console?
No.
I don't think
Ah,
so.
dude, because
No.
we all have a
It's been
Wii
the
U. We
only
could hook up
release.
and play it if they did.
We all have. Well, I have a GameCube.
I don't
Yeah, I
know
have
where
mine. I
mine
have
is.
GameCube.
I have a
I'm
GameCube and 4 controllers.
I'm certain I sold it to pay for whatever the next iteration of gaming was. That's just how I did
For an
so long.
Xbox.
Maybe, yeah, because they were so expensive. And I was like, Halo. I was swinging hard from those nuts, man. I was loving Halo. I was all about Halo for 2 or 3 years. It's all I cared about. It just, took over my life pretty much, gaming wise. Cool. I'm sorry I don't have anything to contribute to this. I've always preferred those top-down versions of Zelda. And
Seems like there were like rupees everywhere.
Yeah.
Like they're
yeah.
very plentiful with the rupees. They're just like showered rupees.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but when I looked at it, I thought of it more as a collection of mini games for some reason.
Oh no!
I didn't think
No.
it was a full-blown Zelda
No.
adventure.
I
Yeah.
mean, it
was short,
It's
but-
short,
Yeah.
but it's a full game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like little mini games.
Did this? If you bought this, did you get one of those collector things as a bonus, or?
I don't remember.
There was a collector's box, and it may have come with like a T-shirt or something.
My
I
memory
can't
is
remember.
wiped. How
I've got the box because I remember
Yeah.
seeing the fat box.
It was a-
So that'll probably show. I'll have to look at
Yeah.
that.
Okay. I was trying to remember how I obtained these collector's discs because I'm pretty sure Nintendo was just giving them away if you went online and did something. If you registered with their... How did that work?
Because I've got 2 of those Zelda collector's discs. One probably came with that. I
think
don't
it did.
remember
That's-
where the other.
And that's
came
probably
with.
why I never heard of it or saw it because I just wasn't hip to this game.
I don't even know where the other disc came from.
I don't know. I want to say they were giving it away for something because I remember you telling me about it. You're like, this is all you got to do, and they'll send you this thing. And it just came in like a sleeve or something, I think, didn't it?
No,
Or it came in
it's
a
an
plastic.
actual jewel
Yeah,
case.
yeah, it came in a case.
I mean,
well, the
the
plastic.
plastic,
case.
Right.
yeah.
It did. I don't know. Sorry to throw us off topic there, but I need to research that because I cannot remember how.
Come on, man.
I found out how many GameCubes were sold. I let you.
did my research.
I
Hey
did.
Siri.
11 different colors, you guys. That's important. I can't remember the details about a Zelda game that's canon and people dig enough to put in their top 10, but I know that.
Yeah, and you know how there's that Zelda like timeline that they've like made that official now.
Yeah.
that it's on that official timeline.
Where does it lie?
but I don't remember.
Gotcha.
Fairly early on.
It's pretty damn complicated.
It's fairly early on in the timeline, I
Okay.
think, but yeah, it's there.
Cool. All right. Anything else we can say about Zelda 4 Swords?
Nope.
I need to play it again.
Yeah,
I would like to
I'd be
play
up
it for the first
that,
time.
yeah. Oh,
we were
yeah.
having conversations about Zelda games that I've beaten, and I was like, I've beaten a lot of the top-down games.
If we get together and we play this, you'll beat it because it's not terribly long.
Yeah.
Well, we should play that and then the Pac-Man versus.
That-
So is the GameCube
that
the only
should
way
be
you can
it.
play it then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
And it's
Okay.
best played with Game Boy Advance SPs.
I never
That's
had
my
one of those.
opinion. Sorry.
No, that's cool. I mean, it was
I think when we played it,
Or maybe.
you had the Game Boy and I didn't. That's why I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think I just played with the
I don't remember.
controller and I was looking at the TV and I think maybe you had a Game Boy.
Yeah.
cool. All right, Nick, give us number 9.
Number 9, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader.
Yeah, this was the best launch game in my opinion that came out.
This was, I thought, one of the best looking games for the
yeah.
GameCube.
Listen to you all. Oh, it was best launch game, best looking game. Y'all ranked it so low.
It is on my list.
It's only at number 9 because of me.
It also goes to show that it didn't have a super strong launch lineup. No Mario game. You know, that was at the time unheard of.
Yeah, it didn't even make your all's 10. It's below your 10.
It wasn't my 10. It got bumped out at the last second.
Now, I will admit it is unfortunately at my 7, but
Yeah.
But it was Nintendo, the N64 and the GameCube era had some great Star Wars, like, you know, those X-Wing games. They were lots and lots of fun.
Shadow of the Empire on N64.
Who was it? What was the name of the company? Oh, I can't remember the developers.
Factor 5?
Factor 5, yes. Thank you very much. I have no idea what they're up to now, but...
Making Star Wars.
Are they still making Star Wars games? No, that's EA now. EA's got the grip. They've got the Darth Vader choke grip on it nowadays. But yeah, they were synonymous with Star Wars games, like excellent Star Wars games, for a while. And that was the latest of that line of games that came out on Nintendo, and it looked great. It's not like I reluctantly picked it up at launch. I looked at it and I was excited to play it.
It was great, and there was another one that came out. What was it called? Rebel Strike, something.
Because I did not play.
Yeah,
but it wasn't as good. It had like on foot missions.
Yeah, those were a little lame.
It was but. And I'll tell you, I bought it. I mean, I would have bought it anyway, but I was like sold because it came out with the old Star Wars arcade game. Remember that?
Oh wow!
No.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it had.
So it was
it was even
playable?
on like a separate disc, I think.
No
Wow.
way.
It was like-
I do not remember that at all.
Yeah.
That's exciting, man. So you were playing that on the GameCube?
Yeah.
Shit, I did not know that. My mind is blown.
That's like absolutely why I bought
I
that
bet
game.
that's
I mean, like I
bet
say,
that's
I would have bought it
collector's
anyway. But
like item
Probably,
nowadays.
yeah.
You still got it, I'm sure. You never got
big
rid of
time.
hardly anything.
I didn't bring it, but
Yeah.
because I saw it this morning when I was gathering all my stuff.
So inside that game, on one side there was that. It's like, do you remember what the disc looked like? Did it have like vector graphics or anything like on it?
No, I think it just said like the name.
Just Star Wars.
They
and-
called it like Star Wars Arcade or something
That's
like
so
that.
cool, man. That is really neat.
That's cool.
I give props to that, and I guess it sold okay, but not great because I don't remember
I mean, if
anybody
they're
that bought
throwing
that
in a
game
bonus
other
like
than
that,
just-
I mean,
It
they probably
wasn't.
knew it wasn't going to do too well.
It wasn't as
It's
good.
Star
as
Wars
this one.
Arcade, nerds. Let's
Nerd up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll buy it. Well, you know, but
Sorry, Nick.
that is one. I mean, as we did our arcade episode, that is one of your favorite games
Oh yeah,
across the board. Like,
Yeah,
that
it's
is a
super cool.
huge game for you. Was it in the top 5 even? I think it was.
yeah. I don't remember it. I mean,
Yeah.
it had to have been up there though.
I've always dug it, but I mean, I was very surprised to learn. I knew you liked it, but I was surprised to learn that it was that high in regard for you. You know, that's just a classic Nick game. So to get that on the GameCube, pre like Virtual Console and all those days, that's awesome. That's really cool.
And not the only one on GameCube. We'll get there.
Yeah. What else can we say about the Rogue Squadron game? I mean, other than it had the best graphics and, you know, do you remember many of the missions very well?
It did Hoth again.
Yeah.
Of course. Was it the first mission though? I don't think it
No.
was. No, it wasn't.
Space was
they,
the first missions.
I think they did a pretty good trench run,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
There was like some Y bomber cool like missions I remember.
and you could play as all the different ships you could play.
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
Was great. Like you could be the Slave One, Darth Vader.
Oh, that's right.
Advance.
That's right.
That was
Nice.
awesome.
That is really cool, and that was pretty unique at the time.
Yeah. Oh, and there it seems like there was some car, like like
Oh shit, I don't remember that.
yeah, it was like a
Car?
secret. Yeah, it was like this purple car. I'm almost positive that it was just like a secret car to unlock somehow.
It probably is in some Star Wars book somewhere. Yeah,
Was it a
they didn't
VW
make
Beetle?
No,
I don't know.
Toyota.
Sorry, wrong game.
I'll have to look it up. I'm
Rogue
pretty
Squadron
sure
GT.
because I'm pretty sure I unlocked it and
Did
it was there for giggles.
It didn't have a like indoor stage, did it? By any chance? with speeder bikes. You know where I'm going with that. Like, I don't remember if it had speeder bikes.
Didn't the second game have speeder bikes?
Again,
the second one I think
had speeder bikes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it had the
that would have been a reason to buy it right there.
It didn't have the
ATST,
but it was ATSTs. Right?
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that wasn't even me this time. It's usually me that's going nuts. I'm sorry, you guys. That was Martin. Well, was the Battlefront games out yet? Because those were great games too.
Battlefront
was not yet.
No, not yet.
Because I remember playing like the Chicken Walkers and all that.
I remember when we played I don't remember if it was 1 or 2. I played it at your house, and it was just so fun because like we're playing whatever, and we saw like Darth Vader, and he was just like tearing people.
Oh
up.
man, it's fantastic.
We got like so excited.
look at him go!
Whoa, this is
nerd fest. But big surprise, I didn't beat the game, so I didn't get all the way through it.
Yeah, I didn't beat that.
It was enough for me to put it in. I bought the GameCube on the faith that there was going to be more games coming out soon, like that. I didn't buy it for Star Wars, but it looked awesome, and I was going to buy it for sure. And I was not interested at all in the other big launch game, the Luigi's Mansion or whatever. But I know, it has its fans. People have been dying for a new Luigi's Mansion games for years.
Well, there was that one on 3DS.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And I never played that one either. Is that just a remake
I've never
of it?
Played it
no.
either.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's a new adventure.
It's kind of like inspired.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of in the same world, kind of continues off of. I don't know.
I assumed it was
weird.
just a remake, like a prettied up remake on the 3DS.
I never played either one.
It's especially need to check out on the 3DS.
Especially since we know that the GameCube now had aspirations to have that 3D technology in it, and that Luigi's Mansion was going to be like a showcase to do
isn't the original one coming out on Switch? Luigi's Mansion?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Don't know. But anyways, back Road Squadron. Yeah, I can't contribute a whole lot to the conversation, but it was beautiful. It looked great. I wonder how it holds up now, though. I haven't looked back at it.
When I get out of the GameCube to play,
we're gonna have to go back and play these.
Yeah,
Nick, you're gonna have to get that set up so we can all meet you over at your place and we'll play. I'm serious. I want to do that. That would be fun.
Yeah,
okay.
We could get Logan to come too. He could be our 4th player.
Okay.
Get his feedback on some of those.
Yeah, he won't like it. He's just not a big Zelda fan yet. I mean, he's young, so he's just all up Fortnite's butt right now. Too much to play Zelda. All right, guys. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put a pin in this, as we sometimes do if the topics go way long, and split this up into a 2-part episode, because even though I didn't think I had a whole lot to say about the GameCube, it turns out I guess I do. We as a group had plenty of things to say about GameCube.
We love the GameCube.
Yeah.
I always thought I did, but I know if I'm truthful, I know I didn't play it as much as I did other Nintendo systems, but I always enjoyed it. I always thought it was a good system. So yeah, we'll pick this up next week, and you guys will join us next week. That'd be cool. So sorry to cut this off in the middle, you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you are audio listener and you didn't know, we're on YouTube. We have a channel where you can see what we're up to, and that's youtube.com/BitGeek. And if you're a video primarily subscriber, you know us just from video, and you didn't know, we have audio as well. We're available on all the big audio or podcast services: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and Stitcher. And while I'm on the subject, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to start drilling this in, for every episode. It's like, if you listen to us and you dig it and you like the show, if you wouldn't mind, just leave us a review. I don't care, obviously I would like to have a good review, but leave a review. It helps with like the algorithms of those services, and it'll help us just find a new audience, not a new audience, but a bigger audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when there's only 1 or 2 reviews, it's we're just not going to get recommended necessarily. So if you guys wouldn't mind maybe giving us a review, particularly in iTunes and Spotify. I assume Google Play and Stitcher has something similar, but please help us out and do that. You can follow me on Twitter at Ron Avis. Nick can be found at Nicholas J. Wright. Twitter, Martin, you can be Martin Reimer. Yep.
Martin Reimer.
Right. On Facebook, we have a page that we like to keep up with. It will give notes on the show. Like I'll have announcements for upcoming shows or whether or not we're going to have a show this upcoming week. So you're not curious. On the that's the BitGeeks is our Facebook page. And, in the past, we've used it to upload pictures or just share interesting things that we just like. But it's also a place that I can go and just let our viewers and listeners know what we're up to. And, like I said, whether or not we're going to have a new episode this week. But that's it. Yeah. Again, like and subscribe in the video if you don't mind. If you do subscribe, there's that little bell icon that notifies you if we do have some new videos. We don't just do the podcast. Like, we do BitGeek plays and, things like that, like odds and ends that goes in the YouTube channel. So if you, press the little bell and that'll allow you to get notified when some new content becomes available. You don't have to go looking for it. It'll just let you know. And that's all I got for housekeeping. Martin, thanks for joining us for this episode. We'll be back, of course, wearing the same clothes. It'll be a time jump for you guys, but for us, we're just going to keep on talking. But for this week, I've been your host, Ron Avis.
I'm Nick Wright.
I'm Martin Reimer.
And we'll see you next week.
See you.